Let's go, bro.
When it comes to investing in NFTs or digital collectibles, historical significance is always something that we're looking for when it comes to evaluating our NFTs, when it comes to having foresight and trying to look ahead and see what might be valuable in the future. And it is definitely a major factor that you're going to want to look for when it comes to investing in NFTs that will have long-term value. So normally when we talk about historical significance, we're talking about how the brand or the character or the collectible has the historical significance. So for example, Spider-Man is a beloved character. Marvel is a beloved comic book superhero brand. So they have long histories of being popular, being collectible. And so that makes for a better chance of the NFT version of that being more popular, more collectible, and more valuable. Other ways that we also talk about historical significance is when it comes to being on the blockchain. What was first on the blockchain? It might have been first on this project, but it actually came out in a different form on this other projects. But today I wanted to focus specifically on historical Veve collectibles. So I'm talking the first time a certain collectible is dropped on Veve, sort of landmarks, if you will, in Veve drops. The first time we saw this, the first time this kind of artist joined on. You guys will see as I go through the list. And these things could be good to know because if Veve as an app, as a platform, as a project does get as big as a lot of us think that it might get, then these historical factors or these little nuggets of information could prove to be valuable down the line. And that makes for a great point to say that this video is not financial advice and this channel will never be financial advice. Before we start, I want to mention that just because they have some historical significance on Veve does not mean that they will automatically be valuable or that everyone will agree with the historical significance or will think that that makes it valuable. I'm just pointing out some collectibles that marked a shift or a change or something new. And if enough people think that they're pivotal enough to be considered really groundbreaking or historical, then they might get more value. But I just want to make it very clear that these are not guaranteed to make them more valuable just because of these reasons that I'm about to give. So with that out of the way, we'll get straight into the list of Veve's most historic collectibles so far. Coming up first, I'm sure everybody probably could have guessed this one, but it is every collectible, all four, in the first ever drop on Veve. I don't think it gets much more historically significant than this. This is what started it all. This is the origin story of Veve, and this is what kicked off everything. So it is Batman Black and White Series 1, for those of you who don't know. It includes the Todd McFarlane Batman, as well as the Eduardo Risso Batman, along with the Joe Madureira and Becky Cloonan. But the first two that I mentioned, the Todd McFarlane and the Eduardo Risso, they're the most significant, and that is because the Todd is the first ever collectible minted on Veve. So actually minted on the blockchain, Todd was the first. And that just goes in the order they chose to do it. I'm assuming it's because Todd is the common. So if you've been hanging around the Veve community, I'm sure you've heard the word Todd. I know I've already said it like 5 times in the last 10 seconds, but you should probably be getting used to it because you'll be hearing this name for as long as you are involved in the Veve community for. And the reason that the Eduardo Risso Batman is so valuable is because it is the most rare in that set. It is the ultra rare, meaning that is the bottleneck to complete that set. So those two especially are the most historically significant, but really everything included in the first ever set on Veve, those all make the cut in my book. And as you could probably imagine, holding the first ever completed set on Veve is a major flex in the community and is extremely hard to do. But if you're able to pull it off, then that is major, major respect. And I have a good feeling that sooner rather than later, it will command respect not only in the Veve community, but also in the NFT community. And then even further down the line, probably the entire collector community as a whole. Maybe I'm getting a bit too far ahead of myself there, but honestly, I don't think so down the line. So that is the first thing that we're going over as Veve's most historic collectibles. So next up, as also a part of the Batman Black and White series, not series 1, but part of the collection, is first appearance Joker and first appearance Harley Quinn. Now the reason that I chose these two was because they dropped really, really early on in Veve's life cycle. They're one of the first few Batman Black and White series, and I believe they all came out in 2020. So that is just a testament to how old these are and how early on they are in Veve's life. But not only that, they are two of some of the most famous villains in the world. And so this is the first appearance of them not only on Veve, but also on the blockchain. And just a quick little side note, whenever people ask me what are the best deals to get, what should they be getting on Veve, I almost always say first appearance Joker and first appearance Harley Quinn are great deals because relative to their price and their additions and all the things I just mentioned as far as their historical significance goes, I think they are great bargains, personally. Next up, Adventure Time Season 1. And of course, similarly to the ones I mentioned previously, this one came out really early on. In fact, it was the second drop to ever hit Veve, so that alone is historically significant. I know 2 is never as cool as 1, but it's one of the first drops ever. But what I think might be a cool, not as often thought about thing about these, and I actually got this from Veve Viral. Shout out to him, by the way. He makes great tweets, great updates. I love all of his info and his reminders, and just it's a great reminder of why we're invested in Veve, and he points out some really great things in my opinion. And here's an example of it. He pointed out that this drop was the first ever collectibles that we've seen in color. So the first drop was Batman Black and White, and these were their normal character colors. I'm not sure how much weight this will hold just on the fact of having color alone, but it's kind of cool, and you know, it's perfect for this list of historical aspects in Veve's history. Next up, we have Donnie. So Donnie's been in the shadows a lot. I barely hear about him. I barely hear from him. I barely see him on the market. That is because he is one of the most scarce collectibles on the entire app. There have been a few that have overtaken him since then, such as the movie ticket or the Aston Martin, but sitting at only 150 editions, Donnie is one of the most elusive collectibles in the entire Veve community. This was especially significant at the time because this was, even for today's standards, one of the scarcest drops, and it continues to be that way. And the odds of us seeing a collectible like Donnie go for that few editions are slim to none. So holding just one Donnie is a legendary feat. Next up, we got Ripmo from the Unicorno Series 1 set. And what is cool about him is that Ripmo is the first ever animated collectible. And he actually didn't start off animated. It got added on after the fact, and nobody expected it. They just dropped this randomly, and his price shot up immediately once word got around. So if you're ever interested in getting your hands on the first ever animated Veve NFT, then Ripmo is your guy. I should also throw in an honorable mention for Starfire. There was some kind of debate that she was the first animated collectible on Veve because her hair moved, but I believe the correct term for that is something like texturing or something along those lines. So anyway, Ripmo is considered the first animated, but Starfire was the first collectible to be moving, be dynamic. Moving on, we got the Platinum Ghostbusters logo. The reason that this is historically significant is because it was the first secret rare ever dropped on Veve. Next up, we have a personal favorite of mine, and that is Ito. So Ito actually has a lot of historical significance, more than most collectibles, and that is for a few reasons. First of all, he was supposed to be released in the original Series 1 Ultraman drop, and that is actually when I first started. That was my first experience with Veve, and that is, from what I gathered, from what I can see, that was also a lot of people's introduction to Veve was that Ultraman drop. So he was supposed to be included, but it got pushed back for, I believe, quality control, and for the longest time, he was under that cover, and everyone wanted to know, when is Ito coming out? When the heck is Ito coming out? And so based off that, based on people being so curious when it's going to happen, it actually started a meme in the Veve community, and that started the when meme. So WEN, it was when Ito, when Ito, when Ito. It actually came out 7 months past the original drop it was supposed to be included with. And so it was the last season 1 collectible to ever be released. It came out technically like during season 2, but it's a season 1 drop. So Ito for just dropping so much later, for sparking the when meme, and he's just an overall legend in the early on Veve community. Next up, we have the DeLorean. The reason that the DeLorean made this list is because it is the first ever vehicle to be released on Veve, and tons of people were talking about driving this around in the Veve-verse and the metaverse. And funny fact also is that on the day it got released, for the first couple hours, it was able to be drivable. And that is just because the Veve team forgot to turn off that function. It was not supposed to be there. It was not supposed to be included, but for a little bit, people were able to drive their DeLoreans around. So that was a fun little Easter egg for those of us who went for that DeLorean drop that day. Moving on, we have the Ultraman 2D posters. Now again, these have a couple reasons that they're significant. That is A, they are the first ever 2D posters to be released on Veve. And B, they were part of the first time that people got compensated for an error on Veve's end. So for example, I was actually included in this. There was a glitch where Veve took more gems than they were supposed to, or they allowed you to purchase more than you were supposed to, or something along those lines. I was buying as many as I could. I didn't even realize that the glitch happened to me because I got 5 total collectibles that day. I got 1 rare, 1 uncommon, and 3 common. But in one of those transactions, mine got messed up. So I actually got the compensation as well. But this was the first time that they did that. And they gave out a secret rare poster. So these Ultraman posters are, again, the first 2D posters, the first compensation, and I'll throw in, it's kind of included, but also the first secret rare poster for what it's worth. Next up, we have Dragon Girl. Dragon Girl is historically significant because this was the first ever artist collectible dropped on Veve. And also, I actually did a video on this. The artist is Simone Legno, and he is Veve's first ever partner. He was the first ever person to agree to work with Veve on their new app that they were creating back in about 2017, I want to say. So he is the artist who first believed in Veve, and I imagine that's the reason that they gave him the first ever artist drop on Veve. So Dragon Girl, first ever art to be released. So I actually decided that I'm gonna break this video up into 2 parts. So I'm gonna end the first part here, and I will resume the rest of it in part 2, just so this video isn't so long. So make sure to stay tuned for that video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did in fact enjoy it, I'd really appreciate a like, comment, subscription, anything helps. Let me know what you think I missed. I'm sure I missed at least one thing. And with that out of the way, with that being said, my name is the MC Flenny, and I'll catch you guys next time.